Welcome to Savitri Dental College Lecturecast in Biostatistics. In this session, we are going to discuss about statistical power. Before we go into statistical power, we have to look into hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing is creating a proposal or an aim for your study and trying to prove it. So usually in research, to be more precise, we usually go by the null hypothesis, where you try to disprove against what you're trying to prove, and if you fail to disprove it, you prove or accept the alternate hypothesis. So obviously null hypothesis is given more importance than alternate hypothesis. For example, if you look at this array of tiles and your aim is to find a different orange tile, you can have two approaches. One is to detect the positive approach, where find a tile which looks different. This is just overall grossly looking for an effect, and you may make errors in this. But however, the next approach would be to do a reject negative approach, wherein you need to set a baseline color for the tile and then individually match each tile and cross them off until you find a tile which has got a different color or shade, as you can see in this one. So the null hypothesis is very useful to determine errors in statistics. The types of errors in statistics include type 1 and type 2 error. First, let's look into type 1 error. Type 1 error is known as alpha. So consider you have a test and you want to compare it or evaluate if it matches reality. So if there is an effect in reality and your observation or the test also determines, your study also determines the same observation, then it is called a true positive result. If your study makes an observation which is absent in reality, it's called a false positive result. If your study fails to make an observation that is present in reality, it's called a false negative result. And if the study and the reality do not have the effect, it's called a true negative result. In alpha power, we primarily focus on false positive result. So a false positive result is the study is concluding something that is absent in reality. So it is usually considered as a confusing term because it could be the term false positive may vary according to the type of study. If your aim of the study is to detect the presence of HIV in a patient, a false positive would be detecting HIV in a healthy patient or in a healthy individual. Whereas in a drug testing study, your aim would be to prove that the drug kills the HIV virus. So a false positive would be to say the drug is killing HIV or there is no HIV virus, even though there may be a virus in the patient. So to avoid this confusion, we usually use the term false rejection of the null hypothesis. In other words, failing to reject the null hypothesis when it is true. So the next error in statistics is the type 2 error, or it's famously known as the beta error. Beta error is the error of recording a false negative. The study is missing something that is actually present in reality. It is considered as a false acceptance of the null hypothesis or failing to reject the null hypothesis when it is false. So finally we arrive at the power. Power is nothing but 1 minus beta, or the ability of the test to detect an effect if the effect actually exists. The power of the study is inversely related to the false negatives. So as the power increases, the false negatives will come down. The power of the study depends on three factors, namely the effect size, the difference between the two groups, the p-value, and the number of samples in the group. The software used to do power analysis is known as G-Power, which is available for free in Mac, PC, and the iPad. So the first step to record power is to select the test family, then to choose the statistical test, then to choose the type of power analysis. A priori means you're doing the power analysis before the study, and post hoc would be doing the power after the study. So after you select this, you'll need to determine the effect size. If you know the effect size, you can directly enter it, or if you need to determine it, you have to click the determine button, and it will ask you to enter the mean and standard deviation of both the groups. Once you have entered these two, you can click the calculate and transfer to the main window button, and then directly go ahead and click it. So the effect size will already be transferred here, and the power of the study will come out as a report. With that, we can conclude on power analysis and how to compute it, and thank you.